why a podcast? It's so niche. You know, how do we start right now? It's pretty unconventional.
Yeah. 9 years ago, they told me stand-up comedy is going to die in 1 year. And I used to do stand-up comedy in cafes where people were drinking beer and hated you. And they were like, can you please shut up so we can drink our beer? Now, it's included in types of professions. So you need to little look in the future.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello. I am here. This is me, Roshan, staying safe at home like all of you are, I hope. That's very, very important because that's what is really needed at the moment. Okay. Lots of questions have already come in. So Thamba, wait for a little while. We'll answer as many of those as we can. You don't have to worry about it at all. We'll be answering all your questions. I'm going to be taking you through a little bit of a section, but will you get a recorded version, Rashmi, of this podcast workshop? No, because it's only for you all. It's for the people who've joined us here. All 165 of you who are already here, some latecomers to our class, but I'm sure they will be coming here. All the others who are asking us some questions, well, don't worry, we will be answering as many as we can. Wow, so many questions that you have already started coming from you all. So let me tell you what, let me take you through the first section. I hope I answer some of your questions. In case I don't, I'll come down to many more as we go along. Okay, so I'm just going to share some things which are generically about podcasting as such. Kenny's going to get on here very, very shortly. So please don't worry at all. He'll be here in just a bit. Okay. What is a podcast, right? Everybody's asking, a podcast hota kya hai yaar? I mean, what's this new thing that's come? We've got so many other mediums. There's radio, there's television, there's OTT platforms. There are all these apps and whatever. But what is podcasting in the midst of it? You know, audio streamed at your time, your place, your device, your topic, your format, your length. That's what's happening. It's the democracy of audio everywhere. So it's very easy for you all to get a sense of what you can do. So it's very, very simple. You know, it's streaming audio wherever you want, whenever you want. And I get asked lots of questions saying, okay, what's the ideal length? You know, what's the format? Don't worry, we're going to try to help you. Today, it's all about comedy that we're talking. So if somebody says, acha, theek hai, podcast, I've explained to you, but yeah, comedy podcast kya hai? You know, I tried my level best to find lots of answers for you, but the one line that actually stuck with me was this one. You know, you'll know it if you're laughing at it. So obviously, whatever is humor for anybody is what could make a comedy podcast. But it has to have some element that makes people laugh, because if it doesn't, then it could be any other genre of podcasting. What all can a comedy podcast have? I mean, where does a comedy podcast start? Many of you sent us these questions from before and you said, you know, so I'll tell you what, let me ask you a simple question. What have you seen comedians do? Why don't you answer in the chat? Okay. So I'm going to read out a couple of things that you all are going to say in the chat. What are things that you've seen comedians do? Okay. Very, very simple to everybody who's there. People, they observe sketches, they be themselves, life experiences, improv, make observation, pull the audience leg, question the audience, talk about daily stuff, storytelling, anecdotes, set up a panel, political satire, talk shows, stories, vlogs, sketches, storytelling, audience, you know, wow, look at that. Look at the amount of stuff that you all are already sharing. Alternate perspectives on regular things. I like that answer. Talk about pop culture, roasts, express their opinion, happy stories, bitch about each other. We've got a comedian in the house, as you can say. You know, everything that you have just mentioned could be a podcast. So just to give you a couple of things that I was thinking of, you know, what do? They have a unique way of commenting on things. They take off on pop culture, as some of you said, right? They use pop culture as a reference point, and anything that is currently popping, whether it's in the news, whether it's in your conversation, they will have their own perspective on it. They roast people, as many of you said. They roast each other. They roast people. I mean, as it's great to see that Papa CJ, the eternal learner, is standing there clothed and not naked with us. So great to see you there. There's so much that you could do. They tell jokes. I mean, the most basic thing they do is they tell jokes. They do sketches. They mimic sometimes. I mean, there's a whole genre of India, which is television, if you might have seen, that people were mimicking people, and that was working really, really well. And they exaggerate so many things, and they do improv. Now, any of these things can become a comedy podcast. And I'm telling you, I haven't covered everything. I'm just giving you a little bit of an idea. I'm a deep, deep researcher. So my whole thing is this. I am not a comedian. Let me clarify. I am a podcaster. Yes, I've been on radio for over 20 years. This whole porting was just moving from a broadcast to what I call as a narrowcast. The other reason why the word podcast is often used is because, the ear pods and this whole idea about, you were getting these little things that were coming at you. So, it is a more personalized experience. So if you're looking at comedy of course, you can consider that you're almost taking just a mic from your live recordings and putting it on. Yes, it works. It's not that it doesn't work. But can you make it more intimate? Can you actually get more engaged with people? There are so many things that you could do. Now, some possible formats, and when I was looking and I was saying it's such a virgin territory, there's so much which you can do. But here are some really fun things that I found. Review shows on films. Look at the amount of films that we have in India. I've already seen a couple of people have started talking about films, but there is this lovely podcast called How Did That Get Made? One of the most popular podcasts in the world. They take out these really bad films and they talk about how did they get made. Take two friends, sit together with them. There you have a great show. So, Rushil is talking about that there. And it's absolutely true. So there is so much. Ketki, see, when the comedy that is performed on TikTok, what happens is it's performance. You need to see it, right? Here you've got to realize that this medium is blind. So whatever can be established without using visual is important. Just to give you another thing, chat shows. One of the most famous chat shows in the world on podcasting was WTF. Of course, I think the most popular podcast in the world is also a chat show. So it's really, really crazy stuff that happens there. And yes, you can even do a fictional podcast. Not too many of them there, but imagine a fictional podcast that could be. So I'm just giving you some thoughts which are here, very basic thoughts, so that you've got some ideas that you can possibly use. Okay. Mostly the genre that people use is they do interviews or they do observations. So in the stuff that we talk about, we often talk about non-fiction or interview-based shows. If you're preparing a pitch for this, please keep this in mind. Okay. What's your topic going to be? What's the show going to be called? What's the format? What's the length? Who's the host? Why is that person the host? That's equally important for us to know. And at the same time, an episode synopsis. People like to know what is going on in an episode. If you're selling it to someone, they just want to know what's going to happen, what's overall going to happen. And please don't just pitch us. If you're pitching us with an idea, one topic, pitch us at least 13. Because if you don't have 13 topics, guys, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Podcasting, you won't on day one have millions of people listening. It will develop over times, right? So you really need to have many, many topics. Some questions to ask yourself. Why do you want to make it? I'll tell you one thing. On the first week of this whole lockdown, I started making a podcast. I was so excited about it. By week 3, I was like, okay, why do you really want to make this? Because it's a lot of effort. It's not easy. When I say it's not easy, the recording and making of it is easy. But when you really have to research topic, find guests, etc., remember those are things that you need to do. What's in it for the listener? Why would somebody spend time with you? Lazy creators are not needed by this medium. It needs people who can really take a person away and say, listen, I want to whisper something fun in your ears. Do you want to listen? What's the North Star of an episode? What's the one thing that people are going to be talking about the next day? You know how they took that person down. You know that word they came up with. You know the character they created. You know the spoof they did on X. Simple. It's about painting pictures in the theater of the mind. Now, right now, here I am sitting with this lovely, lovely t-shirt that I had bought in a foreign country, but waist down, do you really want to know? Now, see, you're immediately imagining, okay, shorts, pajamas, what is it? God forbid, underwear. It's that. Paint pictures in the theater of the mind. It's very, very simple. You've got to do that. If you're interviewing someone, how will you break the ice? Lots of research, lots and lots of research. And how will you get the interview? Another friend of mine recently started a podcast, and on the second week said, can you connect me with so-and-so? I said, I'll tell you what. Everyone is reachable. You can reach out to each and every person. Don't worry about it. You can actually come and get that interview. Just make sure that you can actually hang and follow that person, send them a direct message. They will most probably come and be a part of it. Okay. Here is a very simple thing. Host so-and-so, weekly format, interview and news with an occasional game. I'm just telling you a regular format that I picked up that somebody is using. Recurring features. Now, here is an exciting thing for the person you're pitching to. Oh, they've got these fun things. So this is a section that's actually in a show called Liar's Poker, where the guest tells two stories and the host guesses which is the false one, right? You would have seen this. It's been happening on a late night show as well. So there are multiple such features that can become attractive. Typical guests, yes. Who are the kind of guests that you'll get, right? So what kind of people are you going to get? And it's always great to, when people are looking at pitches, they're looking at 100 pitches. What's different about this one? What's going to make it really, really different? Okay. Small things to consider: music, packaging, cover art, publicity, and budget. When I say music, yeah, because many of the shows that you will listen to and you'll hear have got great music, and they have a great show tune. Do you have a great show tune? Packaging, how's your cover going to look? This is a cover of a podcast that we've just done, but it's just got a graphic designer. It's got somebody, we put up the person, the cover art. How are you going to make snippets and put them out there? What's the publicity that you're going to do around it? Are you going to have a whole set of people you'll send it to, who you'll feature, who'll start sharing it for you? And of course, what's the budget? Now, the beauty of podcasting, it's dirt cheap. Okay. You can actually do it for almost no budget at all. And that's why there is Anchor. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a quick poll here with all of you. So I'm going to stop sharing this and get you all to now do the first poll with us. Here is the poll. Can you see the poll, everybody? Okay. Which genre of podcast do you listen to? Right? People have started answering now. If you can start answering, attendees. Yep. There you are. There are so many of you who are quickly putting in what you all listen to. There's documentary, there's fiction, there's sports, there's drama. And some of you might just not be listening to podcasts, which is fine. There was a time that people were not watching anything on the internet as well. But then some creators came and they made a great mark for themselves. And you're going to be talking to one of them in just a little while. Yep, Praneeth, I know you've sent your questions. Don't worry, some of the questions are already at the end of this entire seminar and session. Okay, I'm looking at some of the questions as well. So while the poll is going on and most of you have polled, I'm just going to wait for another 5 seconds. Pranay, I'm going to try and answer a couple of the questions that are coming up here on the side as well. Is there a recommended speaking pace with recording podcasts? So many people I've heard actually listen to podcasts at twice the speed at which you record it, because sometimes people just want to go through a lot more information faster. I don't think that there is any particular speed, but yes, audio as it is requires you very often to sometimes, pay attention a little bit more. So tendency is to go a little slower if you could. That's what I would recommend. Okay, my God, that's very long. It's not even a question. I think it's more a biodata. So I'm not going to read it. Okay, there you have it. Documentary is what most people are listening to. Fiction comes next, then sports, then drama. So when I say documentary, that's what I was just talking about. Non-fiction is the way to go. Interviews is the way to go. Using that kind of format, it's not difficult for you all to do at all. Okay, so that's our first poll. And what we're going to do is we're going to move along now. There's a little bit of a demo that I'm going to share with you all in terms of what to record, how to record, what you can possibly do. So just get ready for this. And then in the next 5-7 minutes, I'm going to get Kenny over here. Anchor is truly the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, I'll tell you what, I've tried this, I've done this. There was a time, guys, I used to go to a studio. My studio used to look like a banker vault, because there was a CD player that was under lock and key. There used to be 2 record decks. There used to be spool players. There used to be a door, which was a double door, etc. That's what a studio used to look like. I mean, these are huge ass studios that we used to all see. You went and did all of these steps. So equipment, money, skills, time, all of these were there. But now with Anchor, it all comes together in one app. You can host for free. You can record and make it sound great just on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, and you press publish and it gets distributed everywhere. You can also watch how your audience is growing over time. Now, this is how the interface looks on different devices. It looks different. It has most functionality that is common, and you can see this. If you look to the extreme right, which is the iPad interface that it was showing, sorry, I've just gone back to slides. It has these buttons called record, record with friends, voice messages, music, transitions, and library. So you can actually put your stuff and do it very, very simply together. Just to give you a little bit of a demo, I'm going to exit from here and go to sharing something else with everyone here. Okay, I've got a rather cluttered desktop, but I'm going to find something a little easier. Okay, here it is, and I'm going to just share this with you all. Give me just 1 second. And yes, here we are. Okay. Now, what you can see in front of you just now is my login screen. And that's the simple login that I use. Now, to create your episode, all you need to do is you go up here, do something as simple as record. That's the first thing that you would do, which is just record. And start recording now. You could just record a piece right now. Hi, everybody, and welcome to my very first episode of Hanging Out with Kenny. And every week, Kenny and I are going to talk about special things, blah, blah, blah. That's it. That segment has already gotten there. It's right up here. It's getting uploaded as we speak. 5:56 p.m. You can see that. April 25th. And right after that, now that it has been processed and it's there, you can also actually take messages if you wanted. So messages can come in from various places. You can just add the messages if required. In your library, all the earlier things that you had recorded. Apart from that, you can add transitions in between. So here are some handy transitions. Okay, I could put this. Sounds very, really interesting. I could possibly be using this somewhere, right? And you just need to add this to the episode which I've added. Here was my library. And in my library, there's a section here. I've added this as well. Now, it's as simple as that. You've got this music, and after that, you've got this little piece. And you could be previewing and hearing this as we go along. Can you all hear the music when I'm playing it? Is it possible for you all? Yeah, great. So I'm just going to play you what I just recorded as a very short little snippet. So I'm going to use a small transition and bring it over here. So now if you see, I've got this 1 second transition. I've got this 12-second transition, which I'm moving below. So I've got the first, the second piece and whatever. And here it is. Hi, everybody, and welcome to my very first episode of Hanging Out with Kenny. And every week, Kenny and I are going to talk about special things, blah, blah, blah. And And if I don't like that, I can just go and remove it from the episode. Now I only have the first audio and this. I like that sting. I can add this sting. So, it's so simple. And after this, all you need to do is you say, save episode. I've saved this episode. What do I want to call it? Now, see, I'm already doing. So what do we do now as a podcast? So you can see that it's already there. But what do I want to call the episode? What's the description? Am I publishing it now? This is a very good feature because you can actually decide the date and time you want to publish. Now, earlier, people used to publish most of their podcasts on Fridays because it was better. But right now, every day is a Saturday or a Sunday. So there is really nothing. You can do what you want. Very, very simple. Okay. Give it a season number, an episode number. What is it? Is the content clean or explicit? The good thing about podcasting, you can really say what you want. Don't go over the top. And you can create your own cover art as well. So, so here you go. I've got some fun things. Okay, if I wanted to change my cover art, I could actually go and select an image from my laptop and put it here immediately. So it's as simple as that. I cannot tell you if there's anything simpler. And you could then go into your own statistics and check out what is there. This is how simple it is to make a podcast. Okay. And that is really all that I wanted to share with you all at the moment, because I'm sure all of you are waiting to chat with Kenny, speak to Kenny. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to quickly move on from the demo that I just did and give you just 2 more slides that I want to show you, because these are a little important for you all. My parents are teachers, so I'm sorry, my teacher mode often comes out like this. Please don't mind. Here it is. Okay. So you can make trailers, you can do cover art, you can put in voice messages, as I was telling you all. You can actually look at your listeners. Where are they coming from? Which platform are they coming from? What can you do with them? So there is so much which is there. And plus, only in the US at the moment, it's a monetizable thing, but it is there. Anchor and Spotify together. Okay. So I'm going to do a very, very quick quiz with you all, which is just to check how much you know about some of this comedy stuff. So I'm going to go into the chat and see who actually comes up. Here we go with the question. Okay. Which podcast features readings from Belinda Blinks? Rashmi, the tech details, don't worry, we will send you. Anybody here? Vatsal Vatsal, amazing. My dad wrote a porno. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely right. The ones who wait after 5 seconds answer, I feel ho sakta hai Google kar liya hoga. But Belinda Blinks, and I'll tell you about this a little later. Absolutely right. It's a mad podcast. Absolutely. Vatsal, you seem to be a big podcast fan. It's lovely to meet you here. Okay. Podcast with abysmal movie reviews. Yeah. Abysmal, horrible movie reviews. Very, very recognized. I think I did mention it earlier. Now people are Googling, okay? Prashant, was that quick? How did this get made? I'm telling you, I really feel there's an Indian version of this just dying to be done by a couple of people. Just sit and rip off on films, right? It's so simple. Yeah, Mohit, I did mention it. I was just checking whether you were listening. That's what we do sometimes. And is there a comedy show that does a parody of true crime shows? Parody show that does the Onion one. Salman, absolutely right. What's it called, Salman? Anybody who's there, if you all have an answer. Okay, I'll tell you what. Not true crime, Praneeth. So I know, guys, don't worry. You might be unaware of these. Please don't worry. These are 3 shows that I'm mentioning. There are loads of comedy lists that you can go and listen to. Please do your research. It's just important. A Very Fatal Murder is the one that I'm talking about. It's really great fun. It's just very different. It uses the fiction genre in comedy. And I mean, how many of you can just do great voices and become something in that manner? Okay. Okay, my time is up and I did it right in time. I should get, 2 minutes over, which is very bad. But here I am. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're all set, I'm going to bring in someone into the house at the moment now. Here is Kenny, who we have just renamed. He was up there all this while. And now we're going to get Kenny to join us over here. So everybody, please put your hands together, raise your hands, do whatever you can for Kenny. Kenny is there.
Hello, everybody.
Whoa, I love that. Simply Ken. Simple
Yeah.
Ken. Simple Ken.
Yeah. Some strong branding going on.
But that's so good. You know, that's what podcasters need to do. They need to work as hard as early YouTubers.
So current YouTubers are not working hard enough. Roshan has said it. He said it. Yeah. I just want to say I'm very excited to be here because Roshan, I've never had the the humility to tell you in person, but I grew up watching you, and I'm a huge fan. So I just did this because I get to talk to you for this long.
Woo!
Yeah.
So when you run out of comedians on Simple Ken, you can. I'd be very happy to pop in.
Yo, I'm gonna take you up on this.
Done. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, that'll be a dream.
The comments are pouring in. Kenny, the whys never ending. The whys aren't ending.
Noise. I've increased the volume, by the way. I think someone asked me to do it. Is this good enough?
Perfect. It's great.
Awesome.
Hey Shikhar, yeah, I'm so glad you all grew up watching me. I need to find one launch line that I keep telling people. So the only line I used to use, Kenny, on when I go and host shows sometimes, saying, how many of you are under the age of 25? And people raise their hand and I say, I was probably playing music on radio that your parents were making you to.
Wow. Because you know what I love about your hosting, Roshan, like you're so sweet and encouraging. Like usually other hosts are like, oh, that's the wrong answer. Let's go to the next one. You're like, that is wrong, but good job and good try. You know, next round you'll get it. I'm like, oh, what a nice person.
Yeah. No, I think those were the early days. Kenny gets standing ovation even in Punjab villages.
I don't know what that means.
This is really amazing.
I don't know what that means.
He gets a whole ganne ka khet.
Yeah. That's very sweet, wow. Sumit. I'm hoping you're being sweet and not sarcastic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Ken, this whole thing, comedy podcasting is still very nascent in India. It's still something that is just about beginning. I wanted to ask, saying, how did you begin? What got you into it? Tell us.
Okay, so I think we had spoken about this. Is that it's very important for me to give you context of my podcast, because it's not like I'm just the guy who makes podcasts. I'm known as a stand-up comedian, mostly as a YouTube stand-up comedian. So I started this podcast because I wanted to do something different from what I was already doing. I do a lot of live shows. I do a lot of YouTube shows, and I do short form. Short form usually means 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And I was honestly very nervous about doing long form, which is podcasting. And I have written a show, and that was not what I wanted to do with long form. I wanted to do something which was non-fiction, which was something a medium where I could say what I wanted to without being insanely funny and scripted and well rehearsed. And the biggest advantage of podcasting is that I could be current. Writing stand-up, which is current, is like a death wish, because you could take 6 months to write about something that happened in May, and then next year, May, you can't use that joke because no one remembers what happened. But with podcasts, it's a weekly affair, and I could go in length about something that happened this week, and it's okay because usually the shelf life of it is that week, which is great for me because all my other goals is that. So because of my comedy and had a good following with it, I took a risk and I was like, let's see how many will join me in this path of podcasting. And that's why I did it, just to kind of put myself out of my comfort zone, and B, also do something that is not a medium I'm like very proficient in. Like I know a lot about video and writing audio and performing on stage and production. I didn't know much about audio podcasting. So yeah, every year I try to do something that I've not done before. So, and I like discipline. I like I'm also not that, I'm very productive because I trap myself into schedules. So I liked I do a comic strip also, which is Ken and Chip, which every Sunday I release a comic strip. And I really enjoyed that discipline. So I was like, I want another discipline, which is podcasting, which every week I do it. But to be honest, I have been not regular because of the lockdown. Instead of once a week, I've been doing two every month, which is commendable. But I'll get back to my swag once all this is over.
So when you started this, what kind of setup did you start with? I mean, did you go into a studio and do it?
Yeah.
What was it?
So I knew that. So obviously, people know this is also a video podcast. So I wanted to give equal attention to the audio side because a lot of people underestimate audio quality, and this is something I learned from film, where whenever people did short films on YouTube or on their phones, they had the best camera but horrible sound. So I'm a stickler for that. So even though this is uncharted territory for me, I was like, I'm going to go to the professionals. But right now with the lockdown, I'm doing all of it myself. So, and the quality almost is indistinguishable to the listeners, which I'm very proud of. But I went to the studio because I have a reputation and people expect a certain quality. I didn't want that to be the first feedback. I wanted the feedback to be on the content. I didn't want people to be like, I can't even hear what you're saying. It's not clear. I wanted to get over that. So I let the professionals do it. But now I have taken over completely. I recorded myself. I do the levels myself. I own the mic now. So studio was just like some additional help I wanted in this new world I was stepping into.
Yeah. Do you end, because see, to those of you who've heard Simple Ken, and I mean, if any of you have not, I'll tell you what, there was a poll that Kenny had actually wanted us to run. So let's run the poll.
Oh, yeah.
I just quickly check with people. We have already, can we go and launch? Yeah. So just for the audience, how old are you? This is just something we wanted to know. And there's a second question in the same poll that you all can see. There are three questions you've asked. So firstly, it's about how old are you? Are you currently a content creator yourself, podcasting, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or a blogger? What language are you most comfortable in?
And if you're above 45, get out of here. Get out of here if you're above 45, because you're not included in the question. Yeah, oldies. Sorry, Roshna, what are you?
I was just about to come saying, okay, I'll see you later.
Except the host, who is the most important here, who can also disconnect me at any point.
Okay, so there you have it. I mean, I love this. So most people, there are about 87 people right now that I can see who are, I haven't ended the poll, but 87 of them between 19 to 25. Then so it's ranging actually between, yep. So here are the results now. We are just sharing the results with everyone. As you can see, most of our audience between 19 to 25, some 26 to 30. So between the two, we've got about 84% that's covered between 19 to 30. Are you currently a content creator? Yes, about 65% of the people here are content creators. Amazing.
Nice,
right?
Nice.
What language? 122 are comfortable in English, a couple in Hindi, 15% in Hindi, and the rest. So great. It's lovely to get all that information. So see, Kenny, just like we were just getting to know the audience as you wanted to know, I wanted to know your podcast essentially answers all the comments and questions that you get. So how did the first episode happen? Where did you put it out somewhere? I mean, how did you get the first set of questions before the podcast begins?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about a podcast for a year. And the key thing was, the whole point of this show was you get to see a side that is not performative. And I wanted to recreate a format of very natural, organic conversation as much as I could. I don't know why a lot of people think the solution to a format for a show is one topic and that's it. You talk only in that topic. And I was like, you do realize like that also means that organic conversation is a topic. And I noticed with organic conversation that it goes from here to, it'll go from the what's the weather like to have you seen this show to I had a fight with my dad to I had a dream. And I was like, I can't plan that. So I thought I'll use questions from the audience to mimic natural conversation, because I knew no two questions would be the same. And I was waiting for an opportune day or event to capitalize on the podcast release. So I chose Valentine's Day. And it's a topic I love. I love relationships is my favorite topic to talk about, and it's also where I do most humor from. So I was like, okay, let me put out a. I was also scared about calling it a podcast, hence the long recording of me talking. So I was like, I put an ambiguous post on my Instagram. So I leveraged every social media following I had. I put it on YouTube and Instagram, blah blah blah, and I put a post saying Valentine's Day is coming up. How about you start a dialogue? Send me questions that you're thinking about. So some people would interpret it as questions about Valentine's Day. Some people interpret it as, oh, he just wants to have a dialogue. So I collected a lot of questions from all the social media. I selected 12 that got me excited genuinely. And then I went to the studio, I started rolling, and I just answered it. And what obviously happened, because also years of experience of improvising and stand-up, is that I knew that a question will strike a memory, which will strike a story, which will strike a thought. And then when I feel like I'm kind of like getting a little boring, or I'm lagging or struggling to continue, I go for the next question. And the great part about this is there is a payoff for listening to the show, that, oh, maybe I might get featured in it. So it's a win-win situation. It's not just like he's just talking, what do I get out of this? So it's like a win-win scenario.
Well, it's great what you said. So Arpit, you were asking, I mean, in the chat, you were saying you've got 10K plus followers. Are you a content creator? Hell, you're a content creator. यहाँ पर 10 लोग नहीं मिलते follow करने पे लोगों को पैसे देने के बाद.
Arpit is just flexing. He's just flexing.
See, now this is what I love about, what I in fact genuinely loved about Simple Ken was this, that, you were really being dead honest, and to the extent that somebody, and honestly for somebody at my age, I was like, can you really answer like that? I mean, but when my son heard it, he was like, yeah, that's how we all talk. And it's lovely to see that it's natural. I love the fact that you pick up these comments. But then episode 2, voila, you suddenly brought a guest. Why?
Yeah.
Was it something that was missing?
Yeah, so I consciously wanted to do a show alone, because again, I won't do anything if it doesn't add value or teach me something. So having a guest or having someone else on stage has always been easier for me. And it is generally easy, because it's two heads are better than one. So I put up a challenge saying I'm going to do a show alone. But then I was also kind of nervous about the future of the show. And I was apprehensive of doing a second episode, even though the comments were great. You just have that artist, self-loathing. So I called Kanan and I said, I'm doing the second episode. Can you come just give me company, and let's answer some questions together. He was very apprehensive, but he did it for me. And then once I did that, while I was talking to Kanan in the episode, I was like, oh, if Kanan was not here, I would have actually spoken more about this topic. And then the flip happened where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have guests. I actually it reminded me what I was missing. And it was just the initial jitters. So the third episode, I didn't have a guest again. And I just elaborated on what I was thinking. So then again, the beauty of this is I can afford to experiment, because
absolutely
there is not much following for it. And I'm the producer myself. I don't have to answer to anybody. So I was just experimenting, and now it's kind of paid off, because with the quarantine, I can't get a guest other than my flatmate. So it won't be bizarre for me to be alone. So yeah, so it's honestly very emotion based. One day I'm feeling it, I talk alone. One day I want to get a friend along, I get my friend along. There's no concrete plan. Also because I can afford to do this, because I have a lot of experience with stage and formatting in video, and I know I can fix it in edit. So
yeah, no, guys, there's a question that some of you are asking right now about, the music. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play the jingle. Let's hear the jingle part. Can you guys let me know if you guys can hear?
I can't hear anything.
People are saying they can't hear it. You can't hear the audio?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I think maybe because I'm not sharing. So just give me 1 second.
Roshan, while you're fixing it, I'll just answer. Guys, when we do like a webinar, I think don't ask questions that you could Google, because stuff like mastering audio, you could Google it and there are tons of tutorials on how to master audio. And I think this is a tech favorite of every person attending. What is your setup? What is your setup? I'll just tell you the setup so you don't have to keep asking. I do have a Shure SM7B. which I just called up my sound mixing friends and they told me what to buy. Literally, audio technology has come so far that all mics in that price range are equally amazing. The beauty of high-end mics is that you don't have to do a lot of soundproofing in your house and still get a good quality. Cheaper mics pick up noise. Like right now I'm using, this is my first mic I ever bought, which is the Audio Technica, which is very cheap. It's around, I think I bought it at 8 grand or 9 grand. Now it's even cheaper, but this picks up everything. I'm sure you can hear my fan, but the Shure SM7B, which is around 60 grand, does not pick up anything. So it's great. I don't need to soundproof it.
Okay, I'm
Your
set.
podcast.
Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to try and see. Let's see if we can play this from here. Audible now? Can you hear it now?
Yeah, it's very loud.
Okay, great.
For simple, it's time for simple care. It's time for simple. It's time for simple. It's time for simple care.
How are you guys doing, guys?
What
a great jingle!
I love it. I feel I'm in a club with one band, a long-haired guitarist and one groovy crooner in front.
Yeah.
Where was the idea of the jingle from?
So since I'm also a musician, I get very excited to put music into whatever I do. And I'm also a graphic designer, hence I love putting branding into whatever I do. So the moment I was doing the podcast, like, of course I gotta have a jingle. I'm not going to use some welcome. I was like, no, this is my chance to get a song out. So I took my guitar and I just came up with this tune, which is simple can. And I sent this to my friend Nigel, who's the one who did music for my show, which I wrote my TV show Amazon. And he came up with it in 10 minutes. Like, he's an expert at all of this. And he made a 30-second version and I wanted a 10-second version, but I heard it and it was so nice and pleasant. And then I put it in the show because it's my show. I do what I want. And then people started commenting, it's too long. And then I was like, now I'm never removing it. So my goal is to one day increase the size to a minute. There's also a podcast by Kommune where he has an opening jingle, which is wonderful. And it's also pretty long. And if he had succumbed to audience feedback, that song would not be there in the podcast. So I just do it as for fun now, just because when we were kids, we remember the theme songs for Captain Planet, Squad Cats, Dexter's Lab, because they were that long. So I wanted a theme, and I was like, "You bloody hell gonna like it!" And if you don't like it and you tune off, you didn't deserve my show anyway. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. So very often I get asked this saying, should it be 5 minutes? Should it be 5 hours? Many of you asking the length of podcasts. Frankly, there is no length. That's the beauty. You could have an episode that is 50 minutes and one that goes on for an hour and a half, and people don't mind. If the content keeps you engaged, that's there. Kanan, of course, said that he on the episode said, there is this thing about people listen to it either to cut out traffic sounds or to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's true, guys. People do, but very often, in this video first world, when people get too much video, they're suddenly saying, no, I need some off-screen time, but I still want to be connected. And that's why podcasting is growing a lot. Why the name Simple Ken?
Just to add, what you added before was a very nice point. I was so naive about audio because I'm a video guy. And the positive perspective that came out of it is that my goal in life is to have reach, because if I have reach, I get more projects, and the projects release, I can show those people the project. So I realized, wow, now because of audio podcasts, people are listening to my content without seeing me. And that opened up my reach, which was a big aha moment because I was dependent on video. Anyway, the reason I call it Simple Ken was, it does not matter what you call your show. I've learned that from years of doing many shows, but it helps to have a show name which ironically is simple but not too simple. Like if I call this show Funny Things, it would get lost in Google. So usually I take something that's simple to remember but also has my name in it. So obviously it's branded. So that's why, like, Chai Time with Kenny. If I just said Chai with Kenny, I felt it would be too vague and too simple. So Chai Time with Kenny was my name's in it, and you know what it's about. So Simple Ken was also, to be honest, ironic because I wanted to talk about complex things, and calling it heavy thoughts is also very stupid. So I thought, let's call it Simple Ken and see. There's a beauty in simplicity, is what I always say. People don't appreciate simple things. When something's complex, they're like, yeah, this is good. But when they see something streamlined and fundamentally simple, they don't give it value, and that's why I call it simple.
Other thing that you mentioned, which was really unique, was the fact of saying that people, you were looking for something that will quickly be registered on Google.
Yeah.
So guys, I mean, when some of you are talking about reach, one of the things that you could look at is that as well.
Because if you name a show and some other show exists with the same name, you just like ruin everything. So whenever you come up with a name of a show, Google it and see if someone else has taken it, and also see what results come up. Because if you're unfortunate and you name your show 69 something, you're just gonna get like porn search results, and then you've screwed yourself. And you should have just done a Google search. So a lot of things are innuendos. A lot of things mean other things than you think. So always do a Google search and see the results that are coming. It also helps to have a show name that is similar to what you're doing. Like, I think, what's that show about history? If you are doing a show about history, look at all the names of history podcasts and try to come up in the same realm. So when they're searching for those, at least yours will come up. That also helps.
For history, some people are saying,
Hardcore history, correct.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? There were a whole bunch of questions that people had asked. So I'm going to just quickly bring those questions up on the screen so we can see that. There are so many other questions on the side as well in the Q&A. My God, there's tons of them. Shall we just run through a couple of those?
Sure. So Roshan, you want to pick them? Or
So I'll start picking. So setup equipment, I think, has already been just answered. Reaching a larger audience as well, I think we sort of covered. How can one make a podcast in this time of social distancing? I mean, you know, what are the resources, tools, etc. Guys, Anchor, as I told you, very simple to use. But then what else can you do, Kenny?
Yeah, so obviously you can use your phone. Everyone has a phone, and your dongle mic has great quality. And what you could do is just do some hygiene things, like don't record in a room that's noisy. And if you have windows, just putting blankets up on the windows dampens the sound that's coming from outside. And you can just do a check, like record just 2 minutes of your recording and hear it back and realize that you're too close to the mic or too further away from the mic. Oh, my dongle's quality is not as good as the mic on my headphone. So my headphones right now also have a mic on it, and I was testing it out and I realized that it's very low. So then I used my studio mic, which has better quality. If you're an Apple user, Apple iPhone has fantastic audio quality, especially if you use a dongle. Obviously Android phones also have good dongles. So just like do some basic hygiene when you record at home, which could really make a massive difference. If you just read how to make your room, just Google how to make a room soundproof, and they'll give you a lot of tips on what you could do. But these tips is usually what they say. So just with this, you would get such a huge jump in quality. You also realize that when you play back your recording, you realize you say a lot of ums and ahs. You realize that you do a lot of this. So you stop doing that. You angle the dongle away from your mouth so you don't get the splutters. All of this will happen if you do just do a check, and just do 2-3 tests. Send it to some people, and you will be amazed when your friends listen to what you do. They'll be like, "Why do you sound boring?" Or "Why do you sound bored?" And you're like, "Dude, I'm very excited." Like, "No, it sounds like you're bored." So then you realize, okay, maybe I need to sound more excited. Or someone like, "Why are you talking so fast?" Or "Why are you talking so slow?" Your self-bias gets the best out of you. So just send it to a couple of friends. Send it to people who have no idea about podcasting. That's the best advice you can get, because a lot of people think they're very smart. But you send it to someone and just be like, "What do you think?" And if they say, the first 5 minutes were boring, last 5 minutes was good, figure out why that was. Because if you sometimes ask people who think they're too smart, they give you some feedback and then you get confused. remember that your audience is not that critical. They are just like your friend. They will listen to something if it's interesting, and they will not. Honestly, some people will be like, there was too much fan noise, so I stopped listening. So that's some valuable feedback that you can get from just friends without even publishing it online.
A bunch of people who are at the side talking about recording in cupboards and blankets. Guys, we've all done it. I can tell you it's great fun also. I occasionally, my son keeps wondering where his blanket has disappeared because I go to the room and bring it, and I put it over my head here because this room is little
nice.
big. But
Yeah.
you really podcasting. Just remember, pristine audio is very, very important. So that's something which is very good to know. Is there a content arc to build for your episode? Because two questions: one about topics and specific discussion points. Should one make a note of them from before, and is there a content arc needed?
So content is nothing works in isolation. So when you look at podcasts, you think that I only need to read about podcasts. You need to actually podcasts involve multiple things. One thing is someone called Divik asked about voice modulation. Now, obviously, you have to look into voice modulation, which also comes from theater. Then you need to like story. The arc of a podcast comes from story writing, and if you Google about story writing, you get story arcs. Then you have to learn about editing, which comes from audio editing, which is a technical thing. So if you just go back to the arc, the basis of any storytelling is beginning, middle, and end. And to make it even more interesting, in typical storytelling, you have conflict. So a very interesting thing for human beings is to watch a subject, watch him want something, watch him or her reach a conflict, watch him or her figure it out, watch him or find a solution, and watch him or her come out changed. This is called the hero's journey. You can Google about it. Every show on the planet follows this in some way or the other. So this webinar right now, its arc is, I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know how to do a podcast, especially in comedy. We find a comedian. The comedian and the protagonist are going to figure a way together. I have more clarity now. In the end, I'm no longer the person I was in the beginning. I'm a person I was going to try something. So there's already an arc built. There's a beginning, middle, and end. So if this sounds very complicated to you, don't worry. Just read about basics of story writing, short film writing, even poetry. Everything on the planet follows an arc. So beginning, middle, and end. That's why when Roshan was talking about topics and formats, human beings need things to be gamified to have an end conclusion or a value coming out of it. So in Simple Ken, for example, you literally see me take a question and be kind of lost about it, and then talk about it, and then figure it out. And when I feel satisfied with it, I go to the next question. So you feel like a mini journey with me. This also you learn in improv. So that's why I'm saying that anytime you're stuck with podcasting, just remember that, oh, maybe it's not the podcast. It's some broader subject I need to learn about, which could be voice modulation, storytelling, creating intrigue, how to edit better. So you can also fake arc with editing. You could ramble for 30 minutes and realize that, hey, maybe I should put the last part in the beginning, the middle part, and then you could create a fake arc, which is great.
No, it's amazing, guys. I mean, I think Kenny's actually not just talking about comedy podcasting. He's giving you a great view of how content can be. A bunch of people are actually turning and saying that what's the frequency of a podcast? Does one need a frequency? And of course, Praneeth has gone to the extent of saying, but why a podcast? It's so niche. How do we start right now? It's pretty unconventional.
Yeah. 9 years ago, they told me stand-up comedy is going to die in 1 year. And I used to do stand-up comedy in cafes where people were drinking beer and hated you. And they were like, can you please shut up so we can drink a beer? Now it's included in types of professions. So you need to little look in the future and be like, oh, maybe this thing is such a huge $1 billion industry in America. Maybe it'll grow here. Isn't it already pretty big in India? Like, I don't know why.
No, it actually, that's what I'm saying, guys. You must understand that anywhere in the world, when the video revolution distribution has taken over. In fact, there's a very interesting thing that I read, that initially when podcasting started in the West, everybody thought, oh, this guy's not getting shows, etc. So it started there. But then a whole bunch of people took to it and started exploring new formats, and it started creating a new form of celebrity. And these people then reverse engineered and went to television and OTTs. So it's a very strange thing. I can tell you that shows like Serial or Homecoming or that there are so many shows that have now become audio video because they started at podcasts and moved on. So really, this is I always keep saying it's the cheapest place to experiment. You could, in every episode, you could make 30 differences. My first episode, I had a jingle. My second episode, I had a jingle, but I wanted something as a bed. In next one, I said, no, I want to put a couple of snippets up front. Keep experimenting and playing with it. People forgive very quickly here. And you can also just it's incremental building, but it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. In 5 episodes of a podcast, you will not become suddenly, Simple Ken or any of these things. So please be.
Oh, so I myself have given a 100 episode goal before I even introspect or get worried or upset about the growth of this show, because that's how much minimum you need to invest into podcasting, especially for me to figure out why I'm doing this and what I enjoy doing, and B, for the audience to discover it. This is something I tell all stand-up comedians as well, that they put out 5 videos and they put their heart and soul into it, and then they're like, nothing has happened. And I'm like, have you heard of Game of Thrones? And they're like, yeah. Have you seen it? It's like, not really. I'm like, the most popular television show in the history of mankind, and everyone's seen it. That didn't convince you to see it after 7 seasons. What makes you think that someone will find you after 5 videos? So you need to remove that self-bias and apply the same criticalness that people have, is that it takes time for people to find that you even exist. Many times I put out, a lot of people have found me only through podcasting. Didn't know I existed before, which is insane to me, but that's the truth. And you should know your place in the universe, that you are lucky that anyone's listening to you and anyone's watching your content. So it'll take time. Just keep going.
Yeah. So a couple of people, somebody's saying, I've just published 2, but I published them on video. Should I only do video, or is audio enough by itself? Again, somebody said about identifying or finding the audience. So I think there's a lot of audience, how to build your audience, how to find your audience, video and audio, only video. Nobody is clear on that. So
yeah, I'll tell you a simple technique. What you've just asked is, I have a product, it's not selling. Join the club of the whole world. Selling something is the hardest thing on the planet. If everyone could find an audience, everyone would be famous. Now, the simple technique I would tell you is, when you're online, when you're on Instagram, when you're on Facebook, when you're on whatever you are on, what makes you see something? Do that, and make something that you like yourself. The person who asked, saying that, I've done podcasts for a while, nothing is happening. I feel that question is coming because you're not happy doing it anyway. If you were happy doing it anyway, the viewership is an added bonus. I'm not saying that I'm not affected when people don't see it, but I have to like it in the first place. So if you genuinely love doing content and want to experiment with audio, you're like, I love talking about chess, but I have no one to talk about chess with. So I'm going to talk about chess. And then you first get the tick of being regular. Every week I'm going to release a 20-minute episode about chess. Once you get through that, now be like, I've got the production on control. I've got the frequency in control, but now people are not watching it. Now be like, let me see all the other chess stuff and see what they're doing. Then you see that and they're like, oh, my show sounds very bland because it doesn't have formats. And this chess show that I also found very impressive has formats or sections. Let me try that. This is a process that'll take you a year or 2 years. It took me 7 years to figure out YouTube. So just a little bit, if you can give it some time. And the thing is, the joy is only making it. The joy will not come from the audience. I don't mean that in a bad way, because audience will come and go, but the joy of making it will stay. It's a very key thing. Why you're doing
absolutely. Guys, another couple of questions that are there. somebody's talking about rights. If the music is not yours and you sing it, well,
Oh.
it does get taken down. So please be
Yeah.
very careful about that. Some of you talked about how explicit can your content be. When you upload, there is an explicit filter. So if you put it on, it only goes to a particular audience. But if you see, a lot of great podcasts will start by saying, hey, if there are children around you at the moment, you can choose not to listen to this if you're broadcasting it. If you're listening to it on headphones, it's fine. So many people make just a hygiene announcement and then go with it. The extent, frankly, from, my dad made a porno to everything else that I've heard, it's a huge... audiences are very, very wide, and I think they're also very tolerant. And if they don't like what you're doing, they'll switch off. So take a try and see. But again, I mean, some of you are saying, okay, this is India, and what about culture and stuff, etc. So I frankly haven't heard Kenny, abuse or do anything of the sort. But whatever he does, he's just honest and straight, and that's what even that can be. So I'm saying, don't necessarily go there for the sake of going there. That's the one thing that many people do. Okay, couple of questions that were on the screen that I'm going to be sharing now with you and everyone. So let's just go with these. Now, can you guys see the presentation, or is there something else coming now? 1 second. I think do I have a glitch in the system? No, I do not. I hope not. Here goes. No, there seems to be some kind of a glitch in the system. But either way.
It's come. Yeah,
it's come. Can you see it? Yeah.
Q&A
okay.
is showing up. Yeah.
Okay. If the Q&A is showing up to you, somehow, for some reason, it wasn't showing up to me just now. So that's the only reason, saying, here I am trying to show you everything. But
you can maximize the Q&A window so it fills the screen.
No. It's quite strange that I have some things open and some things were not showing for some reason. So that's why I'm the Q&A.
Okay, Roshan, your address is showing up. You should close it.
I think I should just close now. Yeah, something. Okay, so I'll just go with the regular Q&A, guys. My apologies. There was some stuff that I was keen to show you. Otherwise, in terms of just questions that you want to ask, nothing else. Thankfully, I managed to get the demo in and everything earlier. Can we add subtle background music to our podcast?
Yeah, again, it's personal taste. No, I think, Roshan, like when I listen to podcasts with the track behind, it kind of annoys me a little bit. So again, the key way to do is make something that you would watch yourself. As simple as that. So that's very subjective, right? Because you might like music, your friends might not like music. But again, with the intro music, everyone's like, it's too long. I'm like, nope. I like long tracks in the beginning of shows. So make something that you would like. Yeah.
Do you pick a particular time for people to tune in, etc.?
Yeah. So I release it usually in the morning. Because there's a lockdown, I do it on the weekends as well, but usually from Monday to Thursday, because technically people listen to podcasts a lot during their commute. So I did it Monday to Thursday in the morning, so I could catch the crowd that's going to work or going to college or school. But now that doesn't apply because the world has changed.
Correct. Right now, nobody's going anywhere.
Yep.
Okay. Lots of other questions. Preparation planning we've answered. How much of your content is prepped? Is any of your content prepped? Do you recommend it versus improv?
Yes, that's a great question because I can afford to do it because I already have a following in other mediums. So I have gone for a non-fiction improvised format. If this is the only thing you do, please do not improvise. I have, again, learned improvisation in New York. I've done courses. I've been an improviser for 5 years on stage. I have written scripts, so I have a lot of knowledge in how to improvise and make that entertaining. I do not recommend that to anybody else because it's a long process. You have to do a lot of failure and whatever, go through a lot of failure to get through the other side. Please have structure and format and don't waste any time in your show. If you are just starting off as a podcast, have a beginning, middle, end, have sections, have guide your audience to what's happening, be very clear, have things planned out to the T, and also you can obviously edit it when you're making the final show as well. Heavily edit. As I said, don't make anything that you wouldn't listen to yourself. If you went to another podcast and they were meandering and babbling too much and you tuned off, apply the same critique to your own show. you might think that you are very interesting and your voice is heavenly. It's not. So send it to your friends, send it to other people. You know, the best technique is make your friend or family member sit in front of you and play to them and
Correct.
see their face. And something magical happens. Even when you thought it was great, when you see someone listening to your work, you're like, oh my God, this section is too long, or this section is very boring. So edit it down. If you have a 30-minute show, I think it's a 15-minute show. If you have a 1-hour show, I think it's a 30-minute show. If you have a 5-minute show, I think you have a 1-minute show. Just be ruthless with editing. You'll never regret it.
There was a very old thing that I was taught when I was writing in film school, etc., saying write, read, reduce, repeat.
Oh, nice. Write, read, reduce, repeat.
Reduce, repeat.
Nice.
So it's there. Two very good questions, Kenny. Anaga has asked a lovely question. My question is regarding assessing how the content is being perceived since there is no active listener at the time of recording.
Yes.
How do I assess whether I'm making sense? Because that would be even more of an issue in comedy. So I think that's a really good question. Anaga, great question. We're answering it now.
Anaga, to be honest, there is no definite way to know how it's going to be perceived. But as Roshan just said, you have to do the horrible thing of listening to your voice again. And when you listen to the whole episode again, you'll be surprised that you would immediately know that, oh, okay, this is a problematic thing I've said. Or, oh, I don't think I mean this at all. I don't know why I was saying this. Or this is interesting. I'm going to keep it. And the same thing applies. Show it to someone whose opinion matters to you. For example, if I'm really confused about a topic on my podcast, I usually send it to Naveen or Kanan or even my dad. And I'm like, Dad, what do you think about this section? And what they say matters a lot to me, and what they think matters a lot to me. And then I take a call like that, because sometimes we might not know the answer. As Roshan said, do 2-3 drafts of the episode before you hit publish.
2-3 again, really good questions. Considering you moved with an existing fan base, this is what Rachit is asking. Do you have audiences who specifically tune in as opposed to other mediums? Are you analyzing and checking your audience base right now?
Yeah, actually, Ankit, you might think it's an advantage, but it's actually a disadvantage. A lot of creators know this, but an audience is aggressively possessive about an artist. And if you do stand-up comedy and they follow you for stand-up comedy, they will literally hate you for doing anything else. This happens countless times. Just remember your reaction when you found out that Himesh Reshamya was acting in a movie. You're just like, why? No, it's wrong. I'm like, no, buddy, he just wanted to try it. But fans vehemently want you. And it's very ironic. Fans want you to do well, audiences want you to do well, but they get very uncomfortable with change. So what I noticed was that I was vehemently received with, what is this? This is not funny. This is too long. Why didn't you make it 5 minutes? And I had to really remind myself, again, comes back to, I wanted to do this because I enjoy it. So that kept me going. So I did get half, I think almost half is old audience, my hardcore audience, and half was people who stumbled upon me because of the Spotify algorithm. I'm very still curious about my Spotify audience because I'm not used to it, just an audio audience, and they seem to be very nice. And I think the podcast audience is very nuanced, and it's a great kind of audience to tap into because I feel they're more calmer and express very clearly. So yeah, man, I was lucky that I got half the audience from, but my goal eventually is to get a very different audience to it. And I will, because I'm not the same person, right? If you liked me for 5 minutes of jokes, I'm not doing 45 minutes of jokes. So why should you like me? It's logical. So I will eventually get a new audience.
Okay, we are heading to our last 15 minutes, guys. So we've answering tons and tons of your questions. I just wanted to say one question that's coming up, I guess. How do I find topics? How do I become funny?
I don't know, man. You tell me. Okay, these are two different questions. Topics for podcasts.
Yeah. When the person's saying, I've run out of things to talk about my own life, etc. Now, how do I find topics?
Okay, so let's break it down. Write down all the things that you naturally end up talking to your friends about, and you get very excited. For me, it's movies. I call up my friends and I call and talk to them for hours about movies. Second was relationships. I love talking about dynamics of people. And then I was like, what would be great if I could have a show where I only talk about this. That's how you should find out topics. Kumar Varan and Biswa love to talk about history. So they were like, why don't we just do a podcast about history? Surabhi Baga, who's been doing a podcast for 3 seasons, was like, I love to stress over a topic every week and I just annoy my friends with it. Then I was like, you know what, let me make that productive and come with a show. So write down things that you catch yourself talking about a lot, and then be shocked to see that you're not interesting. I'm kidding. And then choose a topic that you can see yourself doing for 3 years every week. And then once you have that, then make a format, which I said is, it's so easy. You can just go to Spotify, hit podcasts. If, for example, you have chosen movies, find podcasts that are about movies, listen to 5 of them, and you will get a bajillion ideas. I'm not saying copy them, but you will notice that all of them have an intro, all of them have an end goal, all of them guide you through it, all of them have a clear purpose, none of them blabber. So that's how we figured it out.
Okay, last couple of questions again, guys. If there's any question that you feel we have not been able to answer for you, please, you can share them. I think this whole thing about podcasting not being well known, it's great to see that many of you are networking in the chat section saying, let's follow each other. It's great, guys. Collaboration. I can't tell you that when I was doing my first podcast, I wanted a slightly intricate edit. And I'm going to try and answer one question. One of you said that, oh, I have a different app to record. Then what do I do? If you want to do complex edits, do them outside and upload it into Anchor as a file. Then you can use that file, but use it as a complete segment. Don't try to suddenly use it as one part and then try and underlay it with something else. That's not how it will work for you. But you know what I did? I reached out on Instagram, and I don't have tons of followers there. I have more followers on Twitter. I reached out to some other friends and I said, can you share this? I found 16 audio engineers within 4 hours, because I turned and said, guys, this is going to be something. I'm happy to pay, number one, this freebie business. I know, and I know everybody wants to do things. And if you can collaborate for free, why not? But if you have even a little bit of money you want to put aside for your passion, put it aside, pay someone. People work a lot better if they know that this got something commercial attached. And in these times, I think it's really, really even going to help more. A bunch of people talking about how to get guests, how to get celebrity guests, how to be professional with the guests. How do you entice a guest to get onto your podcast? Any clues? Some people have unashamedly asked, saying, Kenny, Roshan, will you be on my next podcast?
No. Do at least 100 episodes, then we'll come. By the way, this is assuming that you think podcasting is only interviewing people. There are so many other things you can do. Again, even though I have a lot of contacts and I could reach out to anybody I want, I'm very averse to guest-based situation, because I'd never want to catch myself getting upset or worried about not having a guest. I mean, the whole reason I'm doing this is to be excited and to have fun. And I don't want to have the stress to be like, Arey, he said yes, now he said no, she said she was going to come. So I was like, how can I relieve myself of this stress? Just remote the guest. Now, if you really want to have guests, you need to be aware that if you get somehow you've sent a message to a famous Instagrammer, they come on your show. When they're not on your show, no one's going to listen to you. So if you're ready for that, go for it. I don't like having shows which are guest dependent, because my audience will not be there when the guest is not there. It's a slower process to develop a show alone or do a fiction show, but it's a worthwhile one. Okay, I've decided I'm going to get guests. Even if it's a guest that's not famous, because I'm assuming it's hard to get someone famous, why would they, right? To be honest, logically, why would anyone do something that doesn't benefit them mutually as well, or unless you're paying them? So don't feel bad if someone says no, because if your friend asks you to move his sofa, you say no. So yeah, I think you shouldn't be upset if someone says no to your podcast. If you get a guest along, again, prepare. If you're going to ask 10 questions, have 30 questions ready. Practice it with your family member or a friend. Do it on a phone. Be like, hey man, I'm going to do this interview tomorrow. Can I interview on the phone? What do you think? And then your friend will be like, you asked me 5 questions which are the same thing. So all of that can help you. So literally just practice. Don't hit publish till you have done 2-3 drafts of edits on your podcast. You've practiced 1 or 2 times. Also, don't waste your guest time. Even if it's your friend, people get tired. So don't call your friend and then take 10 minutes to find your notes and then be like, 1 sec, I'll switch this on. Be ready. Don't waste your guest's time because they're doing you a favor. And tell them also, prepare them. We're going to talk for 45 minutes. So that they also know, okay, maybe I want to pee now, or I want to get a glass of water. Don't hijack your guests. So I think that these are a couple of tips you could use.
Yeah, I think guys, most of the questions, and I'm just going to quickly take the names of the people who had asked the questions. Vyom, Mrunmai, Jyotika, Nishant, Anagha, Lakshmi, Snigdha, the ones which had already sent these questions to us. I hope we've been able to answer most of your questions. We've got the last couple of minutes that are left. Kenny, I wanted to ask you, saying that somebody actually said that the name Simple Ken, was it a portmanteau? Was it were you going for something which worked with Ken, but at the same time also worked with Simpleton?
Oh, hey, Roshan, I didn't see you suggest that.
It was asked by someone, so I just
Oh, okay. Since it was asked. I did talk about in the second episode that
You did, right.
because it's so hard to come with the name. I was just like, okay, Simpleton was actually a show idea I had, which was going to be this fiction show. But it was going to be a pun on Simpleton, which was Simple Ken. And I was like, I don't think that show is going to happen anytime soon. Let me just use it for the show. The thing is, people think a lot of things have a lot of thought put into it, and a lot of other things which seem natural are actually have been planned a lot. So it's the classic case of that. I put more thought into the production and planning and editing of the show than I did for the name of the show. And the name doesn't matter. Like 10 years from now, like IBM is the most boring name you can have for a company. But they were like International Business Machine, like that's how they came up. But now IBM makes you think of, wow, computing in future. That's not what it evoked when it came out. So name doesn't matter. People focus so much on the wrong things instead of just making an episode and doing it. So yeah, so don't come at me for the Simpleton one.
No. It's last two questions I'm going to take. One person saying how to be funny. You have not answered.
How to be funny. Do you make people around you laugh a lot, regularly, consistently? If you do, congratulations, you're already funny. Have you never made anyone laugh ever? Then I think that maybe you need to try making people laugh. It's a very tough question, buddy. It's like asking,
correct, yeah.
I'm not good at acting. How do I become a good actor? You just have to act. And it starts with friends. Start with making, I think a lot of people get confused that, hey, I'm a funny guy. I could do stand-up or I could do comedy. Yeah. There's a big difference between being funny in the moment and being funny on command. The difference is that stand-up comedians are funny on command. Can you be funny on command with your friends? So try that. Try doing that. And I can't tell you that do knock jokes. That's funny. That's just an example of being funny. Whatever you think is your sense of humor, hone it and practice it just like any other skill. But much it's too vague a question. It's too broad. So I hope that helps.
Somebody asking about do guests charge? Mostly guests don't charge to be on podcasts right now because everyone knows it's not a medium that's big in terms of money right now. Cedric has an interesting question saying, hey, before you start an episode, do you have a warm-up routine? Is there a way that, before getting into the episode, how should one just focus and get ready?
That's a great question. Cedric, I realize I don't have a warm-up routine. And the last episode I did, which is episode 9, I was in like a very bizarre mood and that came across in the first few minutes. And after I recorded it, I was like, man, I should have just like done something to warm myself up. One thing that really cheers me up is I have a ritual for my stand-up, which is in my green room, I have people around me and I talk to them. A lot of comedians have the opposite, which is like they put their headphones on, they start meditating or are quiet. For me, it's the opposite. It calms me down to talk to someone right before the show. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I was talking to you. Now I'm talking to 1,000 people. So with this podcast also, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to either call up my best friend, talk to them for 5 minutes, get in that conversational happy mood, and then I'll hit record. I don't have one right now, but thanks, Cedric. I'll start one.
That's a really good question, guys. I mean, we've been on non-stop for an hour. Oof, that's why I needed to have some water. I slyly went in the bottom and made my chai and came back. That's my cup.
Oh,
It's
nice.
invisible at the moment. Now it's here. You can see it.
I already had
Uh,
a, yeah.
You had your chai before.
Yeah.
Some people are talking about saying, I've got a variety of topics. Do I do multiple podcasts? May I just answer that for you, saying, guys, focus on one thing. Focus. I was told once when I was setting up my first business, saying that the strength of focus is focus, the weakness of focus is focus. Because tomorrow, if you find something which becomes really successful, you may turn and say, shit, I didn't land there. But as long as you focus on one thing and give it all you've got, it's great. So if comedy and cricket, just to answer what you said, Parmar, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I mean, there's nothing, those two can be combined. Some people said, oh, I can only create one podcast when I go to Anchor. Yeah, because even they want you to focus. But the hack I can tell you is if you do it from a different email ID, you can do another one. So one little hack I learned, but still, just focus on one, guys. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time to do this. So to everyone who's here, we really, really enjoyed chatting with you, answering so many of your questions. Really, and you still have so many more questions which are there. We will definitely try to see if there's a summary for some of those which are generic and add and send them to you. Kenny, it's been fabulous talking to you.
Thank you, Roshan.
I could have made this into a podcast right now about how to podcast.
Yeah.
Man, we should have done that.
That's a
Go
classic thing that happens with comics or content creators. They'll hang out and then they'll be, wait, we should do a show about making a show.
A show. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a great comedy show in the making of a show that never gets made.
Yeah.
It might just be fun, guys. There are tons and tons of ideas. Once again, thank you, Kenny, for being here, for being a part of this. It was really, really fun. And honestly, I was told that you're diligent. And, in that episode about being and doing, I can see that you are a doer. And I resonate so much with you because that's what I do as well. Guys, this is the perfect time. You're at home. I'm sure many of you are working. Many of you got a little bit of time on your hands. Go look at, life from a new perspective, make a podcast. And in case you're wondering what to do with it, I'm just going to tell you, this is what you need to do. The next Spotify Pitch Fest is on. Anchor, record your trailer and send it to us at spotify@spokenfest.com, spotify@spokenfest.com, because that's where we started our first Pitch Fest with Spotify, and we had such great entries. Many of those shows are already being made. You may just get picked for your podcast to be produced and promoted by Kommune and Spotify. Also, next week, we've got on the 2nd of May, in case you like cooking, in case you don't want to talk about comedy, but there's something else, we've got pastry chef, podcaster, and the queen of desserts, Pooja Dhingra, coming and talking about her podcast. What made her do it? How did she do it? How does she convert food, which is such a visual medium, into a podcast, which is blind, but then there's the theater of the mind, as I told you guys before. It's really, really good to have all of you here with us to be a part of this, to share what we are doing here together. I really wish I could have taken more of your questions, but Kenny, virtual high five from across the screen. No, get it close to the screen. Bring the second hand close to the screen so you can see. See, we can actually do this. We can almost do this.
Oh, so cool.
So cool, man. Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really, really lovely to have you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, the next one, do register for it. Land up with your friends and stay safe. Simple Ken, what's the sign off for the show?
Bye-bye, tata.
Okay, so bye-bye, tata, thank you, goodbye, take care, stay safe, and thanks once again, Kenny, for being here with us with Anchor and Spotify.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Roshan.